Hello everyone, Bill Parish here from GTT Audio, and welcome to the channel today. Well, I hope everyone had a great couple of weeks. I know I did. It's been extremely busy, so with this COVID, hi-fi has really taken off over the last, what's almost 2 years now, and then everyone getting their orders in for the first of the year, delivery times and the holidays, etc. So all those that have been ordering, thank you very much. I really appreciate the support. So today I wanted to talk about what probably will be a bit of a controversial subject, which is tweaks. And I've touched on it a bit in the past, and I've always said I'm not anti-tweak, and I really am not. But you won't find tweaks here at GTT Audio, and that's because we display each and every product as it was designed, as you can purchase it, and as you can take it home. There are people out there that believe that they can improve on a brand's design. I mean, the engineers over at AudioNet are much smarter than me when it comes to engineering. And the same over at Mola Mola, at Kronos. I wouldn't dare touch Louie's design. We'll leave that for him. The folks over at YG, I don't know anything about designing the loudspeaker, just what I'm told, and I can change the sound of every one of those components. But if I wanted to do so, then why did I even start with those components to begin with? I hope that makes sense. I mean, I just don't understand. There's so much to talk about here. We can cover this in 4 or 5 episodes, but I'm going to try to keep it short and just kind of glaze over it. But to think that you can improve over a brand's design, or that one shoe fits all approach can work, is just idiotic. It's an asinine, with really no other way to say it. I've had morons walk into my place, come down to my big room before we ever drop the needle or press play on the iPad, or back in the CD days, press play on a CD player. Say that I can improve this system by 40%. They didn't hear a single sound, but they can improve the system by 40%. I guess they subscribe to that. I mean, why would you say something so stupid if you haven't even heard what you're talking about? But apparently they subscribe to the one shoe fits all approach. Whatever they did in their system will work everywhere else. And apparently they think that they did a 40% improvement. Well, if you did a 40% improvement by putting in a tweak, your system was pretty lame to start with. I mean, changing these things do not give a 40%. 40%, imagine that. You are only 60% there? I don't know. I don't really understand all these percentages as well. That guy's 40% might be my 4%. So it's hard to measure, and it's just noise and talk. But this one I don't know. The guy left here saying that it was the best sound he had ever heard, but he could improve it. It's ignorant is what it is. It's just ignorant because he hasn't tried this stuff. Like I said, I could change every single component sound in my system. There's no doubt about that, especially as high res as my systems are. You can change it, and we'll cover some of these ways to change it and what some of these things do. But if I wanted to change the sound of the audio net, let's call it Heisenberg's because they're right in front of me. Oh, I can sway them one way or the other, but I believe that they're neutral. And so if I want to add some yin or some yang to it, then it's not going to be neutral. You know, there are components out there, and that sway one way or sway the other, and there's fellows that sit there and combine. They've got a component that leans a little dark, and they have another component that leans a little lean and bright, and they combine the two, and it sounds pretty neutral. They've done a very good job balancing the system. But when you balance the system, every time resolution gets hurt because you're fighting each other. So if you go in and you go neutral, neutral, then you get neutral with ultra resolution. And I think that's the way to go. So what's some of these tweaks that people use and do? First of all, let me just say that I mean, some of them are cheap and some of them are insanely expensive. No matter what these cost or no matter what they do, we've already established that they change the sound of the component. They also change the way the component measures. I find that some of these tweaks, I find that tweaks can have a real benefit in less than reference electronics, or I can even say inferior stuff or entry-level products. If you have an entry-level system, yes, you can tweak to your heart's content, and you will probably improve the sound a bit. A little bit yin here, a little bit yang there. You're never going to have that ultra resolution. You're really just going for tonal perfection. But if you have components that are already are tonally perfect, because they change tonality is what these tweaks do, if you already have that, then you don't need it. Then in these ultra high-end systems, you're usually going the wrong way when you insert a tweak. It's it's like when we used to make compilation discs when CDs were popular way back when. No, but instead of taking 500 CDs to a show, you would rip the CDs and you'd make these compilation discs. So instead of 500, you would take 30 discs, and they would have all your songs on there, and we would type out the songs so we knew what to play, and a good variation of a lot of different genres and types of music and things to show off the system. But there was guys out there that were ripping the CDs, and they would do certain things and make it sound better. They did not. They made it sound different. But a facsimile is never better than the original. Copy cannot be better than the original. And so, they were just BSing themselves. So why didn't we take the ultra high res, ultra stuff at a show? Well, for one, the noise level at a show is probably 70 dB in the listening room before you start playing music, with just all the hallway noise and people talking in the rooms, and some of that stuff doesn't translate, those differences between the original CD and the copy. But to try to BS yourself that you made your copy was better than the original. It could have been different depending on the software you used, but it wasn't better. It's like way back in the 90s, in the late 90s, when the digital format converters came out. they've gotten better. I call them format converters. People call them, and they sold them as upsamplers. In the pro world, they were format converters, which is really what they are. And others in the hi-fi world referred to them as upsamplers. And every time you took a PCM signal, a CD 1644, and ran it through there, and say you turned it to 24192 or DSD, then they upgraded that, and you could upsample the DSD. What did it do? It changed the characters in the sound significantly. And what it did is it expanded it took the body of the music, it took the sound, and it expanded it. They took the sound stage and moved it out a little bit, but they like stretched it so it became thinner. So yes, it got bigger, but it became thinner, open, airy. But it shifted from the proper tonality to one that this open. You want your system open. I'm not saying you don't, but you don't want it thin. Real instruments are not real thin sounding, and that's what DSD through upsamplers did. That's what upsamplers at 24192 did when you started with a 1644 signal. It thinned it out. You got a bigger sound stage, but you got a thinner sound. I don't consider that an upgrade. So a lot of people, first of all, buy yourself a good rack. I mean, don't put your components on garbage. So you've invested in a good rack. Now do you need to invest in footers? And if you do need to invest in footers, what are you going to invest in? I mean, there's tiptoes, there's, which are spikes, and then there's discs, and there's sorbothane, and rubber pads, and cork with rubber. And the early days you bought sorbothane pads with a spike that fit into the sorbothane. So you had the best of both worlds. And then there's these metal cylinders, and there is so many things. Every single one of them will sound different. Every single one of them will change the way the manufacturer designed it, because they didn't design it on that. And every single one of them will change the way the component measures. So is that a good thing? I don't know. I think it's kind of a poke in the dark. You don't know which way it's going. You can try it. For sure you can try it. If you're at the ultra reference level, I would say don't even bother. But you can certainly try this stuff. But listen with 2 ears open. Listen with both eyes open. Listen to music as a whole. I'm telling you right now, you're going to hear a change. All changes are not good. Some people think changes are good. Most of the time, I think they go backwards in this system. So just be aware of that. Then there's there are things out there like these anti-vibration platforms, active Vibraplane, -K. There's some other one, some very expensive thing out of Germany. But these things that are made for electron microscopes that literally remove the microscope from the resonance of the earth. I mean, talk about isolation. So these things are usually pretty good. Not everything will sound good on it, but usually they are very good. I mean, you're not changing. You're putting it on the component's feet. You're not changing the resonance of the chassis. You're just totally isolating it. So I think that is good. Is it a one shoe fits all? No. Like I said, some components don't work on that, but I would say most do. So that's a good tweak if you want to consider it that. Or I just consider it more of an active shelf. Then there's some people put weights on their damping plates, the old VPI bricks, barbells, the dumbbell weights that you get at the Dick's Sporting Goods, these type of things. Some people put, one customer puts bags of lead shot. Goes to the hunting supply area and gets bags of lead shot, puts it on there. All of the weights will definitely change the sound. Again, it will dampen the chassis. I mean, that's what damping plates do. They change the way the components measure. They definitely do what they say they're going to do, but depending on the component and or speaker, I've heard them sound very good on speakers. They change, wrap on the chassis with it on and with it off. There's a difference. Again, it changes the way the component measures. So you've got to be very, very careful with this stuff. A lot of times, adding weight to a component darkens the sound. So if you have a component that's leaning towards the bright and a little too out of control at the top, throw some weight on there and listen to it darken itself a bit. You'll hurt resolution, but it's that's what that's used for. And again, I don't have any weights on or damping plates on the stuff I carry, but we're just talking about tweaks in general. And I always say, and I've said it probably 10 times already, the same, it's not one size fits all shoe here. Cable lifters. There's wood cable lifters, there's ceramic cable lifters, there's foam cable lifters, there's magnesium cable lifters, there's plastic, carbon fiber, all this stuff. They always make a difference. There's a reason that they make a difference, a scientific reason that they make a difference. But do they always improve the sound? No. And that goes back to, how did the manufacturer voice his cables? Did he voice his cables laying on the ground, or did he voice his cables lifting through all those cable lifters sound different? And then, then it gets into, does the cable brand X that you're using sound better? Was it engineered to be up on a cable lifter, or was it engineered to be sitting on a floor? I know the cables that I use sound better on the floor. You get them up and they start to sound, they thin out. A lot of cables thin out when you get them up off the ground. Makes me think that most cable manufacturers are not designing to have their cables suspended in air. Whether it makes scientific sense or not for them to be that way, it changes the sound. Everything changes the sound. Now we get into, so personally, I would not tweak, I'm not against it, but I would not tweak specific ultra high-end components and or speakers. I use the feet that they're designed with. I use, anyway, enough said. You guys understand this by now. But now we talk about the room. And the room, now this, every room probably needs a little something. I like more natural stuff. Records, papers found in nature, wood, wool carpet, I do have some treatments. I do have some diffusers. I've got some absorbers. I've got a few on the ceiling. I don't know, 15% of my ceiling is covered in different spaces. I do believe in a live end, dead end wall. I don't really think it matters a huge amount which end is live, which end is dead, but I've heard it work both ways. But a little bit goes a long way. You know, furniture, leather furniture is good. Things that are found in nature. You've got to be careful. I mean, there's these chicken wire dog houses stuffed with insulation that people use. And I mean, the sound just goes to them and attracts, and then they overdo it. They put 20 of them in a room, you know, these cylinder things, and it can be overdone. It definitely can be overdone, and I think the sound goes to it. So you've got to be careful with stuff like that. You've got to be careful. There's a lot you can do with your room, and it's a lot of trial and error. I mean, there's some science, but usually things need to be moved around a little bit. I've heard some very, very good rooms that were done by the acousticians, and then I've heard some horrific rooms done by acousticians, just like concert halls. I mean, you know, look at Avery Fisher Hall, designed by committee, and it's been abused by every journalist out there. I mean, it sounds atrocious compared to a block and 5 blocks away, Carnegie Hall, one of the world's best halls. And people say it doesn't sound as good as before they redid it. So you got to be careful with your room. But then there are these resonators that people put in their rooms. The audiophile tweak resonator. And I don't quite understand this. Why would you want little things highlighting certain frequencies in your room? There's pellets, these little looking, you know, like what you put into a pellet rifle, but they're a little larger, but these pellet looking things that you can glue on the wall that come in different colors. There are little bowls, these little tiny bowls that come in precious metals that sit up on a block of wood with 3 metal points that stick up in the air. They blue tack them to the wall, and the sound makes these little things resonate. It's terrible. Drop one. I mean, they come in copper, silver, gold, and platinum. And buy 4 of them if you don't believe me. Buy 1 of each and drop them on the table. The different metals sound different, but you can hear what they do. They resonate, and not necessarily in a pleasant way. I don't know why you need your sound to, I mean, you've just invested $100,000, $200,000, $400,000, $800,000 in a stereo system. Why do you want little resonators sitting around? To me, they drive me crazy. And a very similar thing to that are these bowls. Again, a block that you put on the wall, and then it hangs, and there's these little, I don't know, genie-looking bowls that sit and resonate. They work. It's not, when I say they work, they do what they're supposed to do, but they don't necessarily improve your sound. They're a resonator. They resonate at certain frequencies. And, you know, I don't know if your room had a huge suck out at 8K or 10K and you needed to boost it there. All right. you know, maybe it makes sense at that point. Then there's this big, giant bronze bowl that people put in the middle of their room, and, well, that's interesting as well. It has a very interesting effect. Again, it's a resonator. It's resonating because of its size at a different frequency, and it changes your sound. All of this changes your sound, otherwise why would you do it? But people, I'm here to tell you, it doesn't always improve your sound. There is nothing more important than a home demonstration about a tweak. You know, buying them blindly is not a smart thing, because you have no idea what it's going to do to your sound. And furthermore, you think that you can improve what the manufacturer did, which also means that you don't have very much pride and ownership in the product that you just purchased. I mean, why would you purchase something and think that you can improve it? I don't know. Maybe I'm just from a different mindset. Another thing is AC line conditioners. Now this is something, I don't know, is this a component? Is this a tweak? Does it, it filters it? Does it squash dynamics? There's so many different questions with AC line conditioners. And all what I will say is I've heard many brands of them, and the same brands sometimes in some systems work extremely well, and other systems they take a backward step. So if a review is out there on brand X AC conditioner, it does not mean, screaming how wonderful it is, it does not mean it will work well in your system. For example, I'm in rural New Jersey, and yes, it does exist. There's mountains, there's horses, down the road we have cows and pigs. I mean, and this does exist in New Jersey, and they don't call it the Garden State for nothing. Well, where I am, I have very clean AC. I've looked at it on a scope, and I cannot get a line conditioner to have a positive effect here. Now, I have many clients in high rises in New York City, and lots of them, depending on the building and the wiring, and whether they have dedicated lines or don't have dedicated lines, lots of times, more than not, an AC line conditioner will work in that environment for a positive. So why do I tell you this and tell you about a line conditioner which may or may not be considered a tweak? It's because of that one size fits all approach does not work when you're talking about a tweak or something that's going to alter performance of a component. And that's really what I wanted to achieve today, is just, can you improve what a manufacturer's already, designed into his product? Well, if his design is flawed, I would say probably. If you consider his design excellent, which is probably the reason that you bought it, then you cannot improve. I think it's as simple as that. In any case, if you like this video, please hit the like button, share it, feel free to comment below, subscribe so you know when these videos come out, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.